Okay, I can say that for me as an artist, it was quite difficult at the very beginning because at the very beginning it's very chaotic because every team member wants something drawn and it usually comes in bulks like, oh, I need 10 of that, 10 of that, and then after I've drawn one thing, 20 other things come in that I have to draw, and it's very chaotic. But I think in a couple of weeks of work, my workload lessened, and basically just every time I would have to ask, what is their priority? What do you want for me to prioritize? And that helped a lot. Personally.
So it's just like similar question to what Nat have said. It's just like at the very beginning stage is very chaotic. It's just like everyone want to do a bit of this, and also it's just like planning. Another quite difficult thing is to prioritize everything in for each part of the entire game, like prioritizing which art is more important, or just prioritizing the details of the designs, like which part of the design need to be more in depth or in more detail first. It's something like really difficult to me to, as a new beginner, to learn how to manage everything together.
Yeah, I say one trouble with design was near the start when you have to decide what you want in the game as such, the story elements, things like that, and trying to make sure they all function together, that they're cohesive, because it's not just a case of, oh, this is done, the next thing you want to do, like numbers have to relate to what you've just done. You have to remember that everything should link together. And so I guess making sure that whenever you iterate or whenever you check back on your work, that everything is connected in some way was a bit difficult to start with because there's so much to do at the start. But it was fun.
I thought we had an order going here. For me, I think it's what do I think? I don't know. I don't really think that much.
Block your thoughts.
One of the toughest things for me was having to figure out like bits of code that just didn't really make sense. Oftentimes when there's a problem with your code, you kind of have that instant realization of like, right, I kind of know what's going wrong. I know which line to look at. I know roughly what to try and do to fix it. And that's kind of like the fun part of coding. It gets really challenging when you have something that breaks and you've got no clue where it connects in the code. And you're just scrolling through all these lines trying to figure out what is the one thing that breaks it. You're having to put in loads of like debug like lines of code just to keep on testing over and over again just to find it, and that's when it kind of becomes a bit challenging. But getting that reward afterwards of like finding out what is actually fixed with it is a very great sense of relief, because it means you can get back onto coding what you're actually trying to code.
Yeah, well, design-wise, I think another difficult thing is trying to understand actually the scope of the project and what is realistic to be done. So you don't just have 2 months to make a design, you have 2 months to make a design that can also be completed by the artists and the programmers. So it's definitely something that you need to take into account.
It's gonna sound a bit tacky, but I think for me it's gonna be food. I know that like sometimes I wouldn't have a lot of motivation to come to work and draw for 8 hours, but every time I think, oh, I'm gonna find some Snickers in the kitchen, and I'll be able to get that sugar level in my blood, and I'll be able to work. And it's just sometimes Chris would come in with some ice cream, and that felt very great. I felt appreciated and very taken care of, and it was just, yeah, it seemed very precious receiving food like that.
For me, it was just like the most happiest thing would be having a really good teamwork, and it's more like understanding the brand new side of the people you have met for the past 2 years, and when you work with them, there's another picture or another working style that would be quite interesting to find. Also, just like a little bit related to food, it's quite interesting to see some people they're just like opening a new package of snacks.
I wonder who.
Oh,
I have no idea.
No idea.
But I mean, that's very interesting for me to understand a new side with the people that you're already familiar with.
Sort of linking to what Cerise was speaking of, I think a favourite moment of mine that was more across the project as opposed to one specific area would be hearing what other ideas people had, because I know I like doing certain things one way, but other people may be better at art or UI or sound design than me, and so their ideas are very interesting to hear. And so I guess one of my favourite moments was being able to hear how people would rather the game work as opposed to how I thought it would work. Because after all, it's a team project. No matter if you've got roles, like lead design and things like that, everyone can have their own bit in it.
I think for me, my favourite bit was probably there was this really weird bit of code that I had to write near the start, and it was kind of like the basis of our game, but I wanted to make it fully automated and for it to work on itself and not have to rely on like other objects, because otherwise I'd have to code in like really hard code in a lot more lines to make it function properly. But I remember like specifically like pitching that idea to some of the other programmers in the room, and they just gave me a really weird look as if I just completely lost my head, and they were just like, why don't you just do it the easy way? And I'm just like, listen there, back off. And then I went out, I coded it. It took me about a day, probably half a day longer than it probably would have taken me to code the other way. But it worked, and it was such like a seamless bit of code that I was literally like, I was this close to screaming inside the lab, because it was just, yeah, it was a great moment of self-validation, and I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and something also really nice is the fact that you're not just spending time with your team, but actually you're getting close to everyone, like all the students, all the teachers. So even just knowing that at the end of the day you're going to go out to the pub with them, it's just like, it makes the whole day feel better, feel more, the experience feel more complete, and it's really rewarding. So that's nice, yeah.
I think for me it was very positive. Let's say if I needed some art advice or if I would get stuck, I knew that anytime I can just turn my chair around and behind me there were 2 other artists from other team, and I knew if I was stuck or if I needed opinion from other artists, I could not only, let's say, turn to Cerise and be like, oh, so how does this look like? How does this look like? But I could get opinion from other teams, and I know that they would like to help me if they had time, and I knew that if somebody came up to me and asked for opinion, I would gladly help anyone. It's just the fact that you know that the help is there if you need it was very soothing throughout those 2 months.
Yeah, in addition to what Nata says, like not just having support from another team, we also have support from lecturers and people who also run the project. It's like Chris and other lecturers are really helping us to solve the problems, or even giving us better suggestions to how to make the game better, and that would be a really thankful thing for us, because although we have 2% have been in this project last year, but I still think there's a new environment that since this year everything's turned to be offline.
Yeah, I found the environment rather positive, because we're all friends, we've all been on the course for 2 years already, and B, because we all have our lecturers there and they help us as well. And I think that positive environment of always having someone to turn to if you had a problem, or just having someone to turn to talk to, created a positive environment and hopefully positive memories from the project, as opposed to the project being stressful and rushed and things like that. It felt very much like you go at your own pace and the game hopefully will be made at the end. Yeah.
I think for me, particularly in comparison with like the last 2 years, sort of like everyone's been in and out of like COVID and being trapped in our rooms for an entire year of university, like having an office space where everyone is all working towards the same sort of goal in the same sort of time period, and you're all in there every single day, having that sort of like consistent environment of progression and positivity around you is such a driving force in making the game happen in only the 2 months that we have to make it.
Yeah, it's also lovely how in the team everyone ends up taking care of each other. So even just when you notice someone is having a bad day and they're getting stuck, so you just take them out for a walk and have a nice chat to let them steam out for a bit.
They're not a dog.
Yeah, also just like someone calling to wake me up when I don't hear my alarms. Stuff like that, just helping each other out. It just makes you feel more. It becomes a bit like a family, honestly.
There's always funny moments happening that
Yeah.
we'll remember for the rest of life, I think.
I expected everything, and everything was just as I thought it would be. I think the fact that I've been here for the second time plays a big role in this. I think I just expected for the social interactions to go rather well, and it did. Otherwise, we relived everything in the same way as last year, except that last year Octopus was online. But yeah, but that everything seemed as I dreamed of.
For me, it's just like what I expected is I used to expect that the whole entire working environment would be quite stressful, and people were just working on their own field and just focusing on their own work or their own team. But the fact is, it's quite different from my imagination. Like people, as we previously mentioned, like teams will help each other really well, and also it's just like even though off work, all the teams are not. We're not dividing to individual teams anymore. We're just like chilling and having fun in pub and just talking about random topics, and that would be totally out of my expectations from the very, very beginning.
I did the project last year like an artist, so I agree that most of my expectations were met because I knew what to expect as such. That's something I didn't know what to expect about was this socialising, because last year was all online. And so being able to go out with people every week and be able to speak to people just outside of work, but not just outside of work, but also outside of usual uni time when you've got coursework and things like that, was a very different experience that I didn't expect. I think it gave us an opportunity just to speak with people without the stresses or worries of work or uni.
I think for me, I feel like I started every sentence with I think for me. The most unexpected thing for me is like the nature of everyone around us. Like I was coming into this thinking it's like a job. You gotta take this very, very seriously. You gotta be there. You gotta knuckle down, and you gotta give anyone evils if they interrupt your masterful work that you're creating from you. But it just wasn't like that. And after the first couple of weeks or so, I started just to loosen up a bit and just remember that we're all here to enjoy making a game as much as we need to get that game out. If you're going to be ultra serious about it, you're just going to triple your stress load, and it's just not worth it. Making sure that you enjoy what you're making, it will actually help you in the long term because you'll be less stressed and you're just going to make something that you actually like rather than making something that's there to meet a grey boundary sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, like Kieran, I expected this to be a very stressful work environment. So I had a lot of anxiety coming into the project. But in the end, yeah, when you actually enjoy what you're making, the product just benefits from it. I am glad that it didn't turn out to be as I expected, but it was just so much better.
For me, I would change my role, I think, because I've done art for second year now, and I think it's a bit too much for me. Sometimes I, let's say, overwork with art and I don't enjoy it anymore, because I started to I wanted to become an artist because I enjoy it, maybe not because I'm good at it, but because I love it. But at the end of the project, I'm like, I don't like drawing anymore. It's too stressful. I'm so lazy to do that now. And I think next year what I would do, I would just try to change my role a bit, because based on this year and last year, I've learned that other people can help me if I need. If I, let's say, chose to be a designer, I know the second designer, I know I would receive help from others So I would just be, I would try to be, or like to think outside of my comfort zone and outside of the box. So yeah.
For me, it's like it's more like about my preference after. Although this is my first time joining the internship, but I feel like I got more clear understanding of what I like and I don't like. And for me, just like I would more prefer focus on one field and just make perfect in that one field. That's why I would. I think next time I would try to be artist because I love art and I usually considered arts related careers or jobs or my future career path. So just like I want to more dip into the whole entire field of the art, like not just about the normal asset art or UI art and animations, something like that. I really want to try.
Yeah, I still had to do the project again. Something I'd consider is scope, a bit like Ali mentioned earlier. Figuring out how much work can be done in the time you've got, and maybe doing a certain amount of the work and then iterating on it as opposed to doing it all in one sort of like waterfall way. Because then it should be the work that we have done should get in, and then anything else it would just be good to have in. So yeah, I think if I had to do it again, it would definitely be deciding how much work needs to go into the game and when that should go into the game.
For me, I think I would change probably 4 things. I think during like the middle stages of it as a programmer, it kind of like plateaued a bit when it was just kind of like adding a lot of things and making sure that they all worked, and as kind of Rui mentioned before, like the waterfalling of like you add one thing, you test it, make sure it actually works, and you go on to the next thing. I feel like I was very strict in like how I treated the programming, so I feel like I need to be more willing to be a bit more flamboyant with my style and the way I write, because when I had an idea, I was intent on making that idea work the way my vision kind of initially had, and it made a lot of coding sections a bit tougher because I was very strict with myself and I didn't want to end up with wooden planks everywhere. Yeah.
Honestly, even though I made a lot of mistakes during the past 2 months, I don't think I would change anything because it feels like everything that happened was an experience to learn. So I'm glad it happened. Of course, if I had to take on a new project, I would avoid those mistakes. But for now, I'm just glad with everything that I experienced.
Yeah, like I expected to get some more, let's say, knowledge about drawing and to just become better at it. And I think I did. I definitely can see that I can work way quicker than before. I can see that I can make decisions quicker, let's say, if compared to last year or just drawing in general. And I can see that my teamwork skills have become better because last year I didn't get many opportunities to talk with people as much or like collaborate with people. And I think this year I really learned how to do that.
For me, I think the most obvious change during the whole entire development is my presentation skills and also the communication skills, as I usually not just communicating between the whole team, and also I need to present our game ideas to the lecturers and presenting game pitch to our people and all the people in the whole entire lab, and that would be stressing me out at the very beginning. And I just like it after a few more times and I'm starting to get used to do it and just going smoothly, like there's more guests coming into the lab and I still be able to present everything well and letting people understand what's our concept and what we want to bring through our game, and that would be really thankful through the whole entire development process.
Yeah, I'd say my expectations, with my expectation mostly being similar to what I thought last year, which was this is an experience to learn what you've been taught in uni and not necessarily in uni. For example, some of the stuff we got taught for design the second year, I obviously practiced for the assignments, but I didn't have an opportunity to use it outside of those assignments. And so I guess Octopus 8 gave me an opportunity to make myself more effective in those sort of fields and to learn more strategies on how to deal with certain elements of design, which I may not have figured out if I hadn't taken the project.
I'm not really sure what I was going in expecting in terms of like what it was like to work in an office, because it's something I've never really done before. So to kind of find out what it's like to actively work in one and have, 20 other people or 24 other people around you working towards a similar goal and having those helps from the lecturers, it really changed my perspective on what it might be like to go into a workplace and actually work on a game long term.
For me, I think it exceeded my expectations because I knew it was going to be a great opportunity for something that you can put on your CV, but I just didn't expect I would enjoy it so much. It reminded me that I'm on the right path. I chose the right thing. It's actually something that I want to do for the rest of my life. So it was just so great in that sense.
I think, based on my perspective, the first stages and the last stages are very, very visible, because at the beginning there's not a lot of visuals in a game. What's running around is basically just like squares and circles, and that's it. But at the end, when I actually see everything implemented, everything I've drawn being there feels very, very fulfilling, because I can say that I did that, I drew that, oh, that was so difficult to draw, or like, oh, I had so much fun to draw that, and that just brings many nice stories to tell to others that play the game. So I feel very happy to see a product that I participated in.
Yeah, for me, it's like developing the whole entire game is quite a unique experience for me. It's just more like building a Lego. It's just like having slowly putting all the components together and build a massive and beautiful game in the end, and see how this runs and how does it present to the players. And also, it's just like we also have playtests for this game, and so for me, it's very proud to see people having feedback on the game, like how does it look like and how enjoyed it would be. That would be a very, very unique experience, and proud to be that one of the developers of this game.
Yeah, I do look forward to it releasing so we can say that we've spent 2 months on a game that's been published online. But one difference between doing Octopus and just doing games in uni would be those 2 months, because it's not so well. Obviously, you don't get in uni in the first 2 years to spend an entire 2 months in a group on a game every day with strict hours and things like that. So being able to have that experience and then see the final product from that is something that I'm looking very forward to, because throughout those 9 weeks, you're able to see how the game progresses week upon week, what sort of things get added, what sort of things get edited, things like that. And it's very interesting to see that sort of journey to what started out as a game made in a week to a game now that's been made in 9 weeks.
I think at the start, when there's kind of like that blank canvas, I'm just kind of sitting there thinking this could be anything. I mean, we know what our plan was going to be and what we were going to roughly make, but it was like having that blank piece of paper and just being let free a little bit compared to what is often quite strict with uni. Your work is very regimented. You have to do this very specific thing to get A grades. Having that freedom at the start, it was very eye-opening, I guess. But now, with 48 hours to go, I think my overriding emotion is nervousness. Not because I'm like, oh no, we're not going to get game out in time. Oh no, it's all going to go wrong, sort of thing. It's kind of like that idea of letting your newborn child sleep in another room for the first night, because you're just panic. You let it out of your sight for one night, and all of a sudden you just think it's gonna explode and implode. We'll delete the internet for no reason, sort of thing. And having to let it go and just not touch it afterwards is like a scary prospect. Even if I know it's gonna be done, it's gonna be working. So
I mean, getting to this projects, it definitely makes you feel anxious, but at the same time, it also kind of feels incredible because, like, after 2 years, I've made so many like broken projects. Just like sometimes we didn't have a proper artist, and so like it just looked like less than a prototype. Sometimes I had to do the coding for my own designs, and you do not want me to code. And
This is why you sit the other end of the table.
and yeah, also like sometimes I would do game jams, and in that case you barely have 48 hours to make a game, and you can get a demo of it and it can be something nice, but it just doesn't feel complete. So for example, yesterday I played a section of the game where everything was implemented, and I don't know, it was just like a weird feeling just seeing our baby being almost ready. And, yeah.
Yep.
I think what we should do now is to pitch it because
That was smooth. That was a very smooth
that
segue.
was pitching. And also, since our renowned producer has been doing that for 2 months, I think we should just tell what our game is to the right world.
Well, I mean, since our game is almost ready, here's a very short description of the game. So, our game we have been developing is called Duck's Diner. So, it's an afterlife themed bartending game. So basically, during the daytime, when you're in the bar, during the daytime you'll be upgrading the bar and adding more decorations and making your bar more customized or more beautiful as it could, and so during the night you will be able to serve a lot of different customers, and these customers are usually inspired of mystical creatures, and so it's just like, for example, yokai or ghosts, and these customers usually have a really meaningful background and we will hope to deliver a good positive attitude to face your life. And so
I think we are all really proud of our game, mostly because our backup careers in TV presenting won't quite work out with that.
yeah, just basically we hope that our game could bring players a positive attitude to understand, to really think about their life and accepting and get ready for the stuff might be happening in the future. And so we really hope that players could enjoy our game.
I think since we
much
are...
better is it?
What?
How
Much
much
better.
better we are than your previous team.
Yeah.
Both teams were amazing and very different. So
Very
I
different.
can't compare. But I think for me, in a way, it was the fear of university finishing. We are second years now, and we will have to get to masters or to get a new job. And I think I want to. Don't cry. But I think I just really wanted some more experience to prepare myself. I really wanted something more that I could add to my CV or my portfolio. I just wanted to continue learning. I just wanted to continue expanding my horizons, and I just wanted to help out the Renata in the future for a bit. So that was my reasoning for coming back.
Yeah, after doing it last year, I enjoyed it so much I thought, why not come back? And it was good to be with another team. So it was good to be with another team. It gives you a different experience. So if I was with the team last year again, it would have been a very different experience than it has been this year. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's so good. Because no matter who you're working with, it's going to be a different experience no matter what year it is. And so last year, even though, ignoring the fact that it was online, it was still very different than it was this year. And so I think one of the reasons I came back was A, for the experience, as Renata was speaking about, but also because it just gives you a different experience year upon year, and so different things that you can learn and different ways you can improve yourself, which I may not have been able to do if I didn't do the project during the summer.
Definitely.
I don't know.
Definitely.
I really enjoyed
Why
it.
say that like you got a gun to your head? Please, Chris, please.
But yeah, I really did enjoy it. I met new people. I've got new friends. Well, since last year we were kind of robbed from that experience, making new friends, meeting new people. I really enjoyed working with someone. I really enjoyed it. I made new friends. I worked a lot and I can see my product. I enjoyed spending time with others. I enjoyed socializing. It was just a great experience. And I'm amazed how it managed to fit in 2 months' time.
Yeah, I mean, the whole entire internship is just like starting to improve my skills that are disadvantage or stuff that I might not be good at in the previous years, and that would be really thankful to this internship. So it's just like I definitely enjoy and really proud of having such game coming up and developing by all of us, and that would be a great experience for me.
Yeah, I think it was a good experience to have. It's a different way of learning skills to do with games design. If you're in uni and you're having the lessons, that's definitely one way and definitely an efficient way. But doing it in Octopus 8 as well, where lots of the problems that come up are things that other teams may not have had because it's specifically from your game, gives you a different way of working around things. And so I'd say that would be one reason why I've enjoyed it so much. It gives you a different way of looking at things as opposed to having to do it this way or that way. It's just the way it comes up and then your way of dealing with it.
I've really enjoyed it mostly because of like just being able to be around everyone more often. Only being able to see each other like, you know, an hour a day or a week, depending on what subjects you take. You just don't really get the time to spend quality working hours around everyone. And actually being around people, although I've talked to them for most of the last 2 years, I'm actually getting to like learn them more properly. So I got to know about, you know, Ali's caffeine addiction, Rui's interest in shirts. He loves a good shirt.
Yeah.
Sharice's swearing issue.
Yes, Kieran.
And no problem.
Renata's
I'm an enigma.
amazing intellect and incredible personality.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
No, but seriously, like having everyone around and just being around people, it's great, isn't it? I've missed it. It's been 2 years. We need to hang out more. Yeah.
I mean, let me put it this way. I gave up being at the beach in Italy to come here.
Beep.
And I don't regret it. So that should say a lot.